What is up, people? Welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday morning here. As always, we're having a huge mug of coffee. If it's this big right now, what is it going to be like in prep? Right, so this is like maybe a pint of coffee. I'd love to be able to get like some type of clear mug, because I do like the glass mugs, but it would be a liter capacity, but it also has like a thermostat in it, so it can keep the coffee warm. Because one thing about coffee is that it can be really, really hot, and it only sits at that like perfect temperature for a very brief period, and then as you get towards the bottom, it's like cold and it's like not as enjoyable. So if anybody knows something like that, please do let me know. So today's Sunday and a big leg day. So I haven't recorded this leg day in a while, but similar to last week where I went through the push session, if I have some interesting bits and bobs to discuss during the session, I will, because it's good content, right? People want training advice. People like to hear how they can do certain exercises better, or even understand why things are programmed where they are. Of course, I have the pragmatic guide to building muscle, so you could learn the theory, but it's good to also see it in practice, right? Because it's one thing to watch YouTube video and be explaining this stuff, but it's another thing to actually kind of see it in real time. So that's going to be the bulk of today's video, but it is also the morning where I do my check-in. So I check in with my coach every week, and I fill out my check-in on Sunday. Now, he doesn't send me a response until Monday, so I text him tomorrow, Monday, and tell him that my check-in is ready. But it's across the weekend that I make sure everything's prepared. Yesterday, I did my progress pictures. I do my progress pictures the exact same time every single week. Saturday morning, when I've got nothing on, nowhere to be, and I can be consistent with it. Tomorrow is a busy check-in day for me and my clients. So I know if I do my progress pictures on Monday, they're gonna be rushed. I'm gonna be not holding poses the way I should be. I'll be thinking about just getting them done. I won't be taking time and attention towards doing a very important part of my process, which is practicing posing and doing some progress updates. And I know that I'll be inconsistent with it because I'll just be stressed about getting stuff done on the work side of things. So every Saturday I do it, and it's something I recommend to my clients, right? Because it always happens, right? Is that people who are checking in like during the week and they're thinking of taking their check-in pictures on a day where they are going into the office or they're going to the school. Take them at the weekend when you have nothing on, right? Like you're gonna be more consistent with it, and you're gonna have time for it. Versus being like, oh, I didn't have time to do them this week. Just do them when you do have time, consistently. Fill out my check-in form. So the whole check-in document tab that he has, and just make sure all my data is collected across the week. When it does data collection and something, again, I say to all my clients, track every single day on the fucking spreadsheet or into the app. If you get to the end of the week, it's going to be an admin nightmare. So today, all I have to fill in is yesterday's day tracking. The rest of the week's tracking is all filled in, and then I just fill in the check-in tab. Now, if I was lazy and decided, I'll leave filling out the check-in tracker until the end of the week, the check-in process now is going to take you like an hour to do. When something like that, right, backfilling fucking data like that takes longer, you're less likely to do it more often. So you're not going to check in with your coach as consistently. These are things I've picked up on from working with people for like the last 8 years, right? I know exactly how people's brain work at this point. The people who, again, don't make time to take the progress pictures, the people who are a little bit shady with filling out the likes of the tracker, their results can be a little bit slower. Now, that's not to say that they're not still doing the thing. They could be, but from my side of thing as a coach, I use the data to make adjustments. I use the data to make recommendations and to see trends. And it helps me plan their next diet phase, their next gaining phase. So if the data is not there, it's not collected appropriately, what do you want me to do? I can't make decisions based off nothing, based off trust me, bro. All right, so I am gonna shut up now. I'm gonna get this check-in tracker filled out. I have a new client to finish setting up, finish off his program yesterday and his nutrition outline, you could say. And now it's just to do his onboarding video and also get his own input. So I'm gonna do a few bits and bobs here, and once I get towards the onboard video, I'm gonna explain his starting situation, because it is quite interesting. And yeah, I think it will maybe kind of make some of you think about, are you really working hard? All right. All right, we just got finished setting up my new client, Fikra. Fikr today is off over in Copenhagen running the Copenhagen Marathon. So marathon runners are a different breed. His goal right now is to finish the marathon, and then after the marathon's finished, he's working towards a photo shoot in 11 weeks time. Okay, now this guy built different. During the lead up to the photo shoot, he's still aiming towards running 100 or so kilometers per week, alongside getting shredded, alongside being a full-time teacher. He's a principal in the primary school that he works in, and once the school finishes, he's off to the Gaeltacht to oversee the whole Gaeltacht for a month. So it's going to be a pretty interesting process, right? And now, if you think you do not have time to commit towards a goal like a photo shoot, this guy is fully invested in his training, but he is also in a position where he has a ton of responsibilities, right? Like, being a principal is no small task, nor is it a small task to be a principal of a Gaeltacht and overseeing, a couple of hundred students, and as well as that, staff. He has the training on his running side to maintain, which he's going to be in control over. I'm very transparent with people when they sign up of things that I'm good at and things that I'm not good at. I've never done a marathon in my life. I've done one 10k, which was when I was 18, and I didn't even train for that. I just did my rugby training, then all of a sudden got thrown into a 10k, and that went, as you would expect, not too well. And I have an idea as to how to plan for marathons. I have an idea as to how to plan for half marathons. I know the training principles that underpin running performance, but I'm not an expert in it. So he's overseeing all his running across the coaching process. I am overseeing the diet, and I'm overseeing the resistance training. So the aim is to get him into kind of like a Nick Bear-esque condition by the time he does his photo shoot, which is also aligns with his 30th birthday. And with the training side of things, we're having to organize it in a way that is less lower body intensive, because he's going to be clocking up a lot of kilometers on the legs. So the lower body work we are doing is more like injury prevention work. So a lot of calf work, tibialis work. We have work for his adductors, work for his hamstrings, quads, and that essentially is going to make up the injury management, load management side of his lower body. And then the upper body, he has a pretty strong chest and strong back from training that he's done across the last couple of years, but his arms need work. So the way we're running it is we're doing full body on the first day, which is far away from any of his big runs. Then we have arms and delts, and then on Wednesday he is going to have one of his hardest runs of the week. So we're spacing the lower body weight from that, and then we have a push and pull set up on his day 3 and day 4, and then he has his hardest run on Sunday. Now he's still running across all these days, but it's the spacing of the lower body work and the amount of lower body work away from those hardest runs of the week, which is the most important. And then having some of the more injury prevention stuff in like the push and pull day as well, but on a lower scale in regards to total volume and total intensity. And the rest of the volume is dictated towards pushing, pulling, and arms, right? And even with the likes of pressing movements, I put in a lot more tricep dominant ones versus chest dominant ones, and that's related to him through the grip widths he should choose and the actual arm pats that we're looking for within the likes of the pull work, and a lot of work towards an area that he's never really trained. He even said to me he's never really trained arms. So he has a lot of potential here to grow, and that's been reflected in the program. So it's going to be a fucking exciting process. So I've known Fikr for a long time. I actually did a talk at his primary school in 2022 after my prep. He got me in to speak to all of his, I think I did 2 parts. I did like 1st to 3rd year, then 4th to 6th year, about like, again, all the things they should be maybe look out for if they want to become fit and healthy, which is pretty damn cool. So it's a really good opportunity. So it's cool to finally get an opportunity to work with Fikr, because he's one of those guys that when you get the inquiry, like, I'm absolutely buzzing to work with him. So yeah, exciting times, man. It's gonna be a fun process. It's gonna be something outside of my usual realm. So I've never really worked with somebody with this level of goal who also wants to have this level of output. And not to mention, right? So you might be like, oh, well, he probably doesn't have a family. Like he has a missus, right? Like he's in a relationship, and that's one thing that we've baked into the plans. Like he has one full day completely off, right? One day to give back to the people in his circle that love him. But outside that, he's fully invested in this, and yeah, it's gonna be a cool process to maybe go to share here as we go through it and see what the results are like. So yeah, it's 9 a.m. time to walk, and then it is time to train legs. Let's go.
All right, estamos en el gimnasio. It is legs today. Today's session is probably my hardest one of the week. It's one that takes me the longest anyway, and takes the most out of me. Like, well placed for the Sunday, because after this session, like, I'm dead to the world. Like, I just literally just vegetate for the rest of the day. So pretty much just going to be training related vlog today. We're starting off with hanging leg raise, and then we're into the calf raises. Abs and calves, they're necessary muscles for me to continue training, but I do find them extremely boring. But you know, at the end of the day, there's going to be a boring part of any goal. It's going to be a boring part of any training program. But if it makes the goal complete and it brings a better package to stage, it's worth doing. I do change up my ab exercise a little bit more frequently now, just because the only one that I can really load in this gym is the decline crunch as well as the cable crunch. Hanging leg raises, Roman chair leg raises, they're a little bit harder to load. You need to like attach ankle weights to your legs, which would be extremely difficult to do. So I am currently doing hanging leg raises, and I'll show you exactly how to perform them to keep my torso still and get the most from my abs. Because a lot of times when you see people perform them, they're just doing hip flexor raises. So let's get into set number one. This is the biggest point of resistance of this training session, just getting started with abs and calves, and then after that we're into the fun stuff. Right, so one of the key things I'm doing on these is when I actually place my hands on the bar, I'm not just allowing my torso to go completely slack. It's when people allow their torso to go completely slack that they have absolutely no stability through the torso, and they end up swinging back and forth like too much. Like every single rep, you'll see them go forwards and backwards, and they end up bringing a lot of momentum into movement versus actually using their lower abs to lift up their pelvis. So what I'm thinking about doing, I'm thinking about depressing my scapula. I'm thinking about almost like do a little bit of a pull down, and as I do that, then my lats, they start to contract and they help to stabilize that torso. And then from there, I'm just able to think about kind of lifting up from my hips, almost like I'm trying to get my hips up to my chest versus just lifting my legs, right? And that's the key difference between moving from your hip flexors to moving from the actual abs, is you're thinking about lifting from the hips versus lifting from the legs. If you lift from the hips, the legs will have to move up anyway. As well as that, you can see I'm allowing some range of motion drop off as I get towards failure, and that's because I can definitely still feel my abs working. They're not getting as short as they once were towards the start of the set, but they're still getting short enough. I'm still getting some beneficial tension on the way down through the eccentric. A very tough variation, and you do need to have a lot of upper body strength to maintain your torso hanging from the bar. But if you can do them, they are fantastic, as well as they're fun. They look cool to do, right? That's abs done now, so onto calves. And I've done all my warm-ups, and now I'm gonna rest for about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. And this is something that I've started to do a lot more frequently, is blasting through my warm-ups, right? Just doing maybe 5 reps on the first warm-up, and then every single warm-up I do after that, just doing one, just to feel the weight, potentiate the nervous system. And then once the warm-ups are done, rest for about a minute and a half to 2 minutes before going to my first set. So now, if I wasn't talking to the camera, I'd be thinking about that first set, visualizing it, preparing myself mentally for it. Now, calf raise, you don't necessarily need to get yourself too hyped up for it, but still, I'd be really focusing, breathing, making sure I'm ready to essentially start the lower body work. And I found that since employing this like obligatory rest period in between warm-ups to my main set, like versus just being like, okay, last warm-up is done, give myself 30 seconds and go into it, naturally enough, performance has improved. Because when you're doing a warm-up, you're not going to be putting too much fatigue into the muscle, right? Like, it's a warm-up weight at the end of the day, but when you're doing all your warm-ups in quick succession, you probably are going to get a little bit of whatever metabolites being built up there that do need to clear. And you do need to give yourself a little bit of time before you go into sets where you want to perform. And you want to perform to a level where you're going to be providing your body with reason to actually adapt to the stimulus. I have my timer set on here. I'm going to get ready to go in the next 10 seconds. So I'm going to end the clip. One thing you'll see me doing here is working the stopwatch. So I just have €10 Casio. I'm not big into bling or fancy items. €10 watch suits me down to the ground. I do time my rest periods, and this is something that can be contentious among bodybuilders, where you'll have people say you shouldn't time rest periods and just take as long as you need to recover until you can perform your next set with the same level of effort. And that's something I stand behind. I do stand behind that you should be able to perform your next set with the same level of effort. However, I use the stopwatch to stop me being impatient. I can get a little bit restless in between sets, and I find it hard to take the full rest period most of the time. So using the watch, I have accountability. I say, okay, I'm gonna give myself 2 minutes as a minimum, up to 5 minutes as a maximum. For something like calf raise, I'll go up to 3 minutes. On something like an RDL, I'll rest all the way up to 5 minutes. The more muscle that exercise uses, I am typically going to rest for longer periods, especially if they're very, very demanding, because quite often I won't be able to recover effectively in 2 minutes if I was to perform those exercises with sufficient level of intensity. So that's why I use a stopwatch, is to ensure that I at least meet the minimum rest requirement that I've allocated for myself. Now I'm at 2 minutes, I'm gonna rest for 1 more minute, and then I'm into my final set. And they're going well so far. I am 2 reps up. A rep up on the first set, a rep up on the second rep. Maybe we'll be able to do the same on the third. Now in my ears, I have, look at this. So you might not be able to see that there. Shane Story, Techno Mix. May 9th. I made a mix last night. Every time I DJ now, I am just pressing record on the decks, and just whatever comes out, I'm just gonna keep it. But this is probably the first time in a long time I've recorded a mix that actually sounded decent, nearly start to finish. There's still a few hiccups in it, but that's the whole point of practice, isn't it? You iron things out and you get better. Right, 15 seconds into set number 3. Run. It absolutely essential in any program, if you're looking to fully develop your hamstrings, is a leg curl. This is one thing that from doing powerlifting for years and years and years, I would have missed out on quite a bit, because I would have been doing a lot of stiff legs, RDLs, deadlifts. Now, hinge movement is great for training the majority of your hamstrings. We do have one head that crosses only across the knee, which is the short head biceps femoris, and that only is going to be working through knee flexion. It's also the muscle that when you do your side shots, your side chest, that hangs down. So it is important that you fully develop the muscle, also learn how to pose it in that shot. But if you really want hamstring to drop, you need to be doing your leg curls. So important teaching points when it does come to doing leg curls is really thinking about kind of gripping handles hard and pulling yourself down into the actual pad, right? If you're all loosey-goosey on the pad, the weight will pull you down as you start to strain through your rep. Main things you want to consider across pretty much every exercise is what moves and what stays still. In this context, the only thing we want moving is the knee joint, and everything else should stay still. That should mean your hips should be pressed into the pad, your chest, your arms, all pulled into the pad to create as much tightness and stability as possible. So when you do get to the harder rep, you're able to grind through, and yeah, the reps are going to lead to drop. So now one thing when I am doing these that I don't worry about too much is, am I getting the hamstring completely short at the top? And the nature of any line hamstring curl is you're going to run into the hardest part of the rep when the muscle is shortening, okay? And it's even more emphasized if your hips are more extended, as well as the knee being flexed, because you're running into a point called active insufficiency, where the muscle essentially has like no more space for the cross bridges to overlap of the actin and myosin heads. And what happens is like this like intense cramping like sensation, which you may have experienced at the top of a hamstring curl. Now, when you get to that point, you'll find, I should just stop this set here. Whereas like I'm continuing to go until I can barely clear that mid-range, and until I feel as if I'm no longer doing a good quality rep. Because if you terminate the set when you can no longer get into the fully short position, there's still a lot of room left on the table in through that lengthen and the mid-range of the exercise. So don't be afraid of moving like this, which is a lot harder in the shortened position, to use some partials. This is one of the biggest benefits of using. The rest is for long enough. Time for set number 3, and that's into the heavy hitters, RDLs. Come on. Come on. Oh, Jesus Christ and bollocks after that. So, one more set of RDLs. Now, I've been doing straight sets in these, mainly because I found one is doing the top set back off, I was just getting a little bit carried away with load. And it's one thing that I'm trying to emphasize more this go around with RDLs, is really just trying to make each rep pretty decent and not getting to the point where I'm having too much technical breakdown. Because when I was getting really load hungry, I was doing the top set, back off sets, I was pushing like the top set so hard that my back off set would suck, right? I was getting a lot more technical breakdown happening now. From a visual perspective, you probably wouldn't be able to pick it out too much. Even on that set there, my last rep, my technique was starting to break down. Now I know my body well enough to understand like when the sensation of a movement is off, right? So on each of those reps there, I'm really thinking about pressing down through the ground the whole time, keeping it very nice and close to my body and pushing the hips back. The final rep there, I could definitely find as I was coming up towards the top, my hips were not getting any more power out of them, and they were starting to shift some of the load onto the back extensors. Now, if I decided to, all right, the weight is moving good, moving fast still, if I push another 2 or 3 reps here, does that now take away from the next set I do? Yeah, and it might take away from the next exercise, and exercise after that. So your training doesn't happen within the vacuum. The harder you push one set, the harder you push one exercise, the more knock-on effect it can have to the rest of your session and the rest of your training week. It's something I've definitely tried to do less and less of across like the last couple of months. And it's been like a process of learning, is to not go to the 50-50 reps. And it sounds silly, but I did discuss this with back training. Like, if you're going for the 50 reps too often, you're always failing. The fatigue cost is so high relative to the stimulus you're getting. The stimulus is high, but it doesn't cost you over all stimulus across the session because you are having to drop reps. Drop load in other exercises. So yeah, 3 minutes into the rest period. I'm going to take 5 minutes here because RDLs are tough, man. Calm. Calm. So the knees have been feeling good the last few weeks. After the wedding, my strength was really suppressed. Like 20 kilos off my top set and pendulum still felt as hard as that load, right? I said, you know what, it's a good time to take off the knee sleeves now that my knees are feeling good and just focus on kind of in line with the rest of what we've been talking about today, moving the load with the muscle. So when I have my knee sleeves on, I have a tendency to get carried away like my old powerlifter self and just focus on moving away from A to B. Use a little bit too much of the momentum or the stretch reflex you get from the sleeve at the bottom. So taking the sleeve off was just allowed me to really think about kind of initiating the movement for the bottom with the quads. Now, I can absolutely on this improve a little bit of the change of direction because I was using a little bit of momentum there, partially because last week I got stapled. It's taken a little bit of time to get used to the sticking point without the knee sleeves, because the knee sleeves allow you to typically like blast a little bit harder through the sticking point, or at least you come out of the hole faster, so it's easier to gauge when your reps starting to slow down. It's just a little bit harder when you don't have that same bounce. So yeah, this back off set keeps the same load on the machine and just aim to improve with control. Naturally, enough reps are probably going to drop as well, just as I improve on control, but also probably push a little bit harder because I would probably have given myself another rep in the tank in that last set. All right, that is the pendulum done. To be honest, not too happy either of those sets. Feel like I lost concentration on the second one. It is what it is, right? We play by the law of averages. Most of the sets are going to be good. Sometimes there's kind of shit ones, even if you don't fail. So it is 10 reps in taking the first set, 6 on the second with better control. But I think on the 5th rep and into the 6th rep, I just lost the head a little bit. When I lose rhythm with my bracing or my breathing, it really throws me off. In for a quick shoe change. So I do wear my squat shoes when I am doing my pendulum squat as well as the leg press, just to get a little bit more forward knee travel, get a little bit more knee flexion, and as a result get more quads. But for the rest of my sessions, I just use these Advancus. They're powerlifting shoes. I believe they're Advancus 3. So I prefer to mainly train in flat sole shoes. Just it feels like you get a better connection to the ground. And the one thing I'm big on across all exercise really is like rooting my feet into the floor. I feel like I'm one with the ground. It does make me feel a lot stronger, especially in lower body movements versus wearing fucking big cloudy running shoes. So we're on to leg extensions now. We have a rest pause, and then after that it's into Bulgarians. At the start I have the most resistance with the ab and calf. By the time we get to this point, it's dread, because these two exercises back to back fucking suck. It's only one rest pause and it's only one set of Bulgarians, but quite the way to finish the the training session. It's like resistance at the start, bit of nice movements with the adductor and leg curl, heavy hard work, pendulum and RDL, and then it's just like finish him for these last two. All right, let's stop yapping, get done, and we get home and enjoy the rest of our Sunday. Fucked. I can almost guarantee if you don't need to rest between legs, and we'll get into this lot, you're not training hard enough. No way could I go straight into next leg there and perform with the same level of effort. Minute and a half, 2 minutes at least between legs. For this reason, I only ever reprogram 1 to 2 sets when I'm programming these for clients. You get the 3 sets, not only does your buy-in to actually do them drop massively, you're more likely to rush them and you're more likely to skip them and fucking hate them. As a result, you're not going to grow the legs that you potentially could. I love a split squat like these to build 3D legs. You're getting a bit of glute, getting a bit of adductor, getting a bit of quad. Amazing exercise, way more mentally challenging than doing a single leg press. And you know what? It sets you apart from everybody else who complains and cries about doing them. Be better. Stir up.
Alright, back from the gym, post-workout time, potatoes, chicken, rice, almond butter, honey, chili oil. You swear I would have this memorised by now, and I still have to think. That's the effects of the brain fog from leg day. So, I eat this, I'm gonna watch a bit of Man on Fire. So I finished Animal Kingdom, which was tough. You know when you invest like a couple of months into watching a TV show, you really start connected to characters, and then the TV series is done. It was almost like somebody had died in my family. But look, a couple of days pass and then you're on to the next one. So yeah, watching Man on Fire right now is fucking deadly. So I'm gonna watch an episode of that, get this in, and I'm just gonna chill for a bit. So yeah, we'll catch up when I'm actually doing something worth talking about. Alright, it's dinner time. Watched one episode of Man on Fire, and then I had some programming to do and just finishing off some content drafting for the week. Surprise, surprise. Every video I must talk about doing something related to content just because it's a fucking never ending task. So in the last video I was mentioning how I need some kind of change, and I had pasta and mince and it was lovely. However, I just don't know if I can see myself keeping it long term, just because cooking all my rice in the morning is just so easy, whereas having to come home for the gym, cook the pasta, cut and prepare the veg, it's just an extra layer of effort I'm just not willing to do right now. So we're keeping with the theme of keeping things simple and easy, using the rice cooker. And the change we made, it's an old favorite. We have our 3 beautiful packages here: minced burritos, So I don't have a huge amount of fat on my training days, only 70 grams of fat. So I've used some light Philadelphia cheese. I've got the low fat mince. I bought that yesterday, 3% lean mince, peppers, onions, garlic, mushrooms. I don't have any beans. Beans do kind of make a Mexican dish, to be fair, but I probably will pick up some beans in the shop tomorrow because they just add a little bit extra to the actual burritos themselves. A bit of taco seasoning, and now we're gonna have some sweet baby rays as well as some chipotle hot sauce. That's going to be meal number 3. There's one more meal left, which is going to be a creamy, and that's pretty much going to be the day wrapped up. So I'm going to leave this here because it's been a lot of training today, training talk. So hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure to leave me a like on the video. If you're not subscribed, please do. And any questions, anything you want, if you want to give me any props, any compliments, leave a comment. So yeah, that's it. We'll catch you in the next one.